Hi, this is Mr. Curtis, and today's topic is the nervous system. We're going to be spending a lot of time talking about why it is that we react when we get electrical shocks, and why is it that our nervous system is the way it is. Our nervous system is made up of basically two major systems. So you have the central nervous system, which includes the brain and spine, and then you have the outer nervous system, and sometimes you'll hear this referred to as the peripheral nervous system. And the job of the nervous system is two things. It is to carry electrical signals to and from the brain. That's basically what it does. These signals travel about 200 miles an hour. Now, let's give you an idea of how fast that is. So 200 miles an hour, that's a football field a second. That is really, really fast. 1001, one football field. The main part of the nervous system is something called a neuron, which is a nerve cell. This picture is a little bit misleading because here you see that there's a part where you have this gap. Well, really, a nerve cell or a neuron is something like this. You have this part here, and then you have really long parts of it, sometimes 2 to 3 feet long, or even longer. So this picture is just a little misleading. This picture here is a more detailed view of the nervous system. This thing right here, the nodes of neuron VA and the myelin sheath, we're going to talk more about that because there are certain nerve diseases that people have which are because of problems with the fat area, the fatty layer around the nerves. We'll talk more about that in class. Here's an actual picture of a neuron. So actually you can see 3 of them here. You can see axons and dendrites going all over the place. There are 3 parts of the neuron that we need to talk about. There is the cell body, the axon. This carries signals away from the cell body. So if you remember axon away, double A here, axon away, it's a lot easier to remember. The dendrite, this carries signals towards the cell body. Neurons do not touch one another. Interesting. And there's a gap between them, and this gap is called a synapse. If you were to look, for example, at skin cells on your skin, they're packed right next to one another, all in these little clumps, and you could see the nucleus in the middle of them, all the other stuff. But a nerve cell, they don't touch one another. So you have one nerve cell here, and then there's a break between the two, and there's another nerve cell, and it goes on and so on. Now the signal may be going this way, for example, but there's a break, there's a gap between those two things. And that gap is called the synapse. Now here's the other weird thing about the synapse, is that the electric signal can't jump that gap. Here's a magnified view of it. So this would be the axon here coming forward. Here's this line coming down. The signal would come down here, but the electric signal can't jump the gap from one nerve cell to the next. This would be the start of the dendrite for another cell. The signal can't jump that. How the heck does it get across? Well, it gets across by a chemical. Chemical ferries are used. Kind of like the ferries that take cars across a body of water or something like that. So if I were to draw a picture here, here's the end of one nerve cell, and here's the start of another nerve cell. The electric signal comes down here, and it stops, and then there are these chemical boats that take the signal across. And once the signal is across, then it is converted once again to electricity, and it continues on through the next neuron. Now that's absolutely amazing. Think about how quickly we react. If somebody throws something at your eyes, for example, you blink and you react to it. Think about all the thousands of nerves that must be working together for that to happen, and how quickly we react. And it's not just one nerve that's reacting, it's thousands of nerves. So the electricity comes down through, then it gets transferred to these chemicals, and then it continues on through. And all of that happens so quickly, yet it's electric, chemical, electric. Just boggles my mind. Have you ever had this done? Yes, we call this a reflex. So a reflex, interestingly, is only 3 nerves. When you get your knee whacked like this, that was only 3 nerves that happened. Not thousands or millions, just 3. Just 3 little nerves, and we'll do a little experiment in class as we talk more about this. In a reflex, here are the 3 nerves that are involved. There's something called the sensory nerve. That picks up the signal. Think about senses reacting. Then you have the associate nerve, which transfers the signal around. And then you have the motor nerve, which makes your muscle move. Looking back at that previous picture here, you can see which one is the sensory nerve, picks up the signal, then it gets transferred down into your spinal cord, and then goes out here. This is the motor neuron, out to a muscle, and it makes your muscle move. Only 3 nerves. All right, that ends our very short discussion of the beginnings of the nervous system, and we'll be talking more about that later. See you next time.